Fareed Zakaria, who I watch every Sunday, delved into the whole idea of the New York City budget and what Zoran Mamdani is going to have to deal with, and perchance to what we're going to face here in New York City. Now, there are a couple of things I want everybody to pay attention to. One is that the population of New York is shrinking and has been shrinking since the COVID-19, going back 6 years ago. People have been leaving New York and are continuing to leave New York. They're moving to Arizona. They used to go just to Florida, but they're moving anywhere in the Sun Belt people are moving to. They're leaving New York. And the other thing is that you're going to hear him point out that it takes $35,000 per year to educate one child here in the New York City public school system. And that the public school system is also losing its enrollment. There are not as many children enrolled. People aren't having babies anymore. Homosexuals are not having children. The advent of that. So the New York City school system is shrinking, but the cost of education is going up. And then taxes on real estate, et cetera, is all going up. So Zoran Mamdani has got a major problem. And I don't see him solving it anytime soon. But anyway, Mr. Engineer, would you roll clip number 1, please? Don't go anywhere, everybody. I'll be right back.
Zoran Mamdani ran on a promise to make New York affordable.
A mandate for a city we can afford.
Last week, he unveiled a budget that is, in a word, unaffordable. New York has been fiscally profligate for so long that the headline number, $127 billion, produces little shock. But for perspective, these are similar to the annual expenditures of a mid-sized nation with all the expenses a country requires, like Greece or Thailand, devoted to governing one city. New York City's budget has ballooned in recent years. Michael Bloomberg's last budget, adopted for fiscal year 2014, totaled about $70 billion. So in little more than a decade, the budget has nearly doubled, growing faster than inflation and faster than the city's economic growth. And much of it has happened as the city has been losing the one thing that makes big government easier to finance: people. New York City's population fell sharply amid the pandemic, with a 5% decline from April 2020 to July 2022. More recent city reports show a rebound, but the city remained below its 2020 baseline as of 2024. The arithmetic is brutal. A larger bill is divided among fewer payers. Per person, the imbalance is stark. Using the Lincoln Institute's fiscally standardized numbers, New York's general spending in 2023 was more than 30% higher per capita than Los Angeles and more than double Houston. And what do New Yorkers get for this? Look at New York City schools, the largest school district in the country. The city's education budget has climbed while enrollment has shrunk. The DOE budget has risen from roughly $34 billion in 2019 to over $40 billion, while the DOE says per student spending is projected to reach nearly $35,000 in fiscal year 2026, among the highest in the nation. The outputs, graduation numbers, test scores, and reading levels, are at best middling, often comparable to places that spend a fraction of what New York does. Now come the taxes, because every political argument in New York eventually ends up at the same curbside: who will pay? New York already sits at the extreme end of the American tax spectrum. For high earners, the combined state plus city income tax reaches 14.776%. Add federal taxes and the combined marginal rate can exceed 50%, reaching roughly 55% on certain investment income. New Yorkers pay tax rates comparable to European countries that provide in return universal health care, free college education, and amazing infrastructure. New Yorkers get some 300 miles of sidewalk sheds. On business taxation, the city is also off the charts. The Citizens Budget Commission reports that New York City business activity faces the country's highest combined corporate tax rate, 17.44%, once state, city, and regional layers are stacked. Mamdani wants to hike income and corporate rates even further, Or else he says he will raise property taxes by almost 10%. Property taxes already made up more than 27% of the cost of home ownership in the city as of 2022, above the national average. New York is really a prime example of a problem Democrats seem unwilling to confront. Blue cities are out of control, promising more, spending more, delivering less, and pushing off the fiscal problems to some future day. Take Los Angeles, another one-party metropolis wrestling with affordability and disorder. The city's homelessness budget for fiscal year 2025-26 totals about $950 million. The LA Homelessness Services Authority reported that in 2023, homelessness was up 9% countywide and 10% in the city. And a 2024 AP account noted that homelessness has surged 70% countywide since 2015 and 80% in the city. All this amid public frustration despite billions spent. An audit reviewed $2.4 billion in city homelessness funding and found that officials could not reliably track where it went or what it achieved. Or take Chicago, with a mayor whose approval rating is deep underwater, where the pension promises are so large that they will surely bankrupt the city at some point. What is the theory of good government here? If the answer is keep adding programs, the city will keep producing unaffordability, because unaffordability is what happens when government becomes a machine that grows faster than the society it governs. Zohran Mamdani's basic instinct is correct. Focus on affordability, especially housing, but not by providing government subsidies. These only seem to have driven up the cost of rent, as subsidies naturally do. The city's rental assistance spending rose from $263 million in fiscal year 2020 to $1.34 billion in the most recently reported fiscal year. That is a 5 times increase in a handful of years, and housing costs only got worse. Matt Iglesias persuasively argues that the city should make it easy and routine to just build abundant market-rate housing. That will bring in more people, expand the tax base, fill the schools, and increase local GDP. And that will make the budget affordable. For Democrats in city halls, there is a choice. Stop governing as if the goal is to announce new entitlements, and instead make government work. Safer streets, functioning schools, predictable sanitation, and above all, enough housing that the middle class can find places to live. New York City does not need more soaring rhetoric. It needs more homes.
I greatly appreciate Fareed Zakaria's his lectures on the present state of a being. However, and his analysis were spot on. I tend to agree with the last things he said with respect to how to govern New York by safer streets, functioning schools, and build more houses. That is not the answer to New York's problems. The streets in New York are relatively safe. And well, here, if you're not a New Yorker, if you don't live in New York, then this would probably be foreign to your understanding. But if you live near a ghetto city, because he called them blue cities, they're really ghetto. Anywhere black people have a majority, or at least a large segment of the population, they're going to be Democrat, and they're going to be blue, or they're going to be ghettos. So that's the first problem. That's the first. We need to tackle the fact that black people are a great expense, and they are a growing expense to every city, because as you just saw, the rental assistance back in 2020 was $263 million a year. Has now grown to over $1 billion of what the city has to do to subsidize black people's rent to pay for their housing. But here, and he says build more housing. That's not the answer either. Build more affordable housing. That's not the answer. And Zohran, the moron, Mamdani ran on that premise as well. If you don't live in New York, but if you do, you will notice that New York City has more skyscraper luxury apartment buildings that have been built over the last 20 years than you can shake a stick at. The whole skyline of New York City from 59th Street down to Battery Park has been markedly changed because of the new luxury apartment buildings that have gone up, along with the luxury, if you will, office buildings. Now, there are a lot of office buildings, especially in the area from Chambers Street down to Battery Park, in the area where the World Trade Center initially, Twin Towers were. There are a lot of those buildings down there are vacant. They are office buildings that were owned by these real estate moguls. And because of computer and because of work at home, many of these buildings are now vacant. And we're talking hundreds of buildings where absolutely nobody's living in. Can you repurpose those buildings to have people live in those buildings in what is known as a business district? Because that is a heavily business district from Chambers down to, you got all the courts down there, you got federal buildings down there, you got a lot of other buildings. Can you have, I think so. I think they can be repurposed, but they can only be repurposed with a certain statue or people, I think, who will be ready to live in a business district. I mean, you can't put, Baby and her children down there because she could be out there in the street naked, showing her butt. Her children going to be out there cussing. She can be out there in the middle of the night while people are trying to do business, on the other side of the street. You can't put Baby and her children out there. You got to find, so where are you going to find the right clientele to go there? But the other thing is right here, you go to this 123rd Street, you go to 145th Street on this very avenue that you see the camera pointed out, they're building a 40-story luxury apartment building that actually they were going to name the Al Sharpton building because he's got a little chicken shack meeting house over there on 145th Street. To get it built, they use Al Sharpton and his Negro influence to get the developers pulled him into it as they pulled him into the, if you will, the gentrification of this community. And they were going to name it, part of it would be there, 40 stories high, a luxury apartment building. You look across the river, you look across the East River, over in the Bronx, they have got luxury apartment buildings scraping the sky and all over. So housing, if you got money, there are plenty of houses. There's plenty of housing in New York. You don't need to build more low-income housing. We need to build more high-income people. Now, that's what I would have said, and that's where I would finally sit people down and say, listen, you niggas, well, that's okay, all right, so you don't like the word nigga. Anyway, we got to stop building low-income housing because it continues to build low-income people. That's the problem. The budget went from $263 million to $1.6 billion in rental assistance because you keep building low-income people. We got to stop that. We got to look at, hey, something's wrong with your idea, the way you think. You have got to, something. You got to get rid of all these. Get rid of Al Sharpton. Make Al Sharpton a spectacle. We don't want to hear his voice, see his voice. Get rid of all the other Negroes that are leaders and are politicians. Get rid of all the city council. Put all white people. Put all white people and put all Jews in the city council. Get rid of all the Negroes because all they do is advocate for building more low-income people. You build low-income people, they're going to need low-income housing. But if you build high-income people, you can put them in some of these projects. Some of these high-rise buildings. New York, skyline has changed. I mean, you've got luxury apartments. There's one building down the street down there that goes 100 stories high. It's up in the clouds. And people are living in those buildings and all over on the east side, west side. There's plenty of property. There's plenty. It's just that this low-income mentality. And Democrats are about that. Black people about that. And then they rail at me, well, you can't, you got affordability. No, that ain't the case at all. Now Mondami's going to have to raise taxes as much as 10% on the real estate that is remaining. He wants to grab another 3% from all the wealthy people that live in the city. They're going to leave. They're going to just move their headquarters someplace else. They don't have to live in New York City. And they're not going to pay. So the city's going to go bankrupt. Until we look at the fact, you got to stop building low end. You got to stop festering low-income people. You got to tell mama, you have a baby, daddy ain't gonna take care of it. Well, we ain't, don't come to be knocking on the door of the welfare office. We ain't putting no diapers on that baby, and we ain't giving you no money for milk, and we're not buying no food for you and your nigga. You just gotta say it. And they say, well, people are already dying. People are going to suffer. People are already suffering. We got to stop building. Listen, here's the other thing. You say, Pastor Man, I don't agree with you. Well, I'll tell you this. You go into any city that is not a low-income people where they have low-income ideas about everything, all this business about pitying black people and subsidies for black people and hell, you go to these cities around America and the budget is usually, and the people are living okay, but they're white and they're Republican. And I'm not Republican or white. I guess I'm not white. I guess you see that. But it's sick. And until we start training ourselves to stop thinking low income people. You got to be righteous. You got to be respect. And by the way, there are plenty of jobs. I was talking with John Galt the other day, and I tell you what. Listen, let me put this in your pipe and smoke. Hey Trump, you want to get rid of all the Mexicans? You want to get rid of all the Latinos that are coming across the border? Want to get rid of them? Put black people to work. Tell black people to get off their ass and go to work because they're doing jobs. These Mexicans, Latinos are doing jobs that black people won't do. Hell, they ain't gonna work. They ain't gonna do these jobs. But a Latino be glad to get them. Hell, they pay him $15 an hour. He don't care. He'll be hanging out at Home Depot, Walmart, waiting for somebody to come and give him a job. He'll make himself $75 to $100, $125, $150 a day, go home, and he in Chiquita, they'll have some whatever, and they go back out next day, make another $150 where that black man is sitting at home watching television. He won't get up. He ain't going no damn where. If you're going anywhere, he's going to jail. He won't work. And somebody done told him that the white man's against it. Somebody done told him that the white man's making a slave out of him. Somebody done told that Negro that the black white man's against it. He ain't going to work. But that Latino, I tell you what, you want to stop migrating. You want to stop the problem. All these people come, let these black people take up all the jobs that should be taken up, go to work. Then you tell the black people stop paying taxes. They can pay their own damn rent, buy their own food. Don't need no free bus ride. Don't need no free groceries. What the hell is wrong with y'all? You can put that black man out to work. Put him out to work. And he done go home and got a computer now, and he know how to play, know how to game the system. So they voted for Ndami instead of me. Is that right? No, I got the answer. No. You solve this problem right now by listen, when I was in North Carolina, I said, well, there they go again, talking that North Carolina talk. We're tired of that old Jim Crow hillbilly stuff. He talking all that, talking about when everybody went to work in the cotton fields, everybody, even little babies went out to work. Yeah, we did. Hell, it need to be that way now. You wouldn't have all these, all that budget that you see the increase is that they got more black people who ain't working no more. So anyway, well, I don't think that's the message that people want to hear. Why? They want to hear a free bus ride. Okay, you want to ride on the train, want to get on the train, don't want to pay nothing. Then you got a bunch of people sitting on the train, sitting at home watching television. They get on the bus and ride around town all day. Nuisance to everybody. Won't get off the bus either because you can't make them get off the bus. So I agree with Fareed. I like Fareed. I do. I think that the other thing I think is important is that you need to be aware of the fact that the black people are having fewer babies. That's true. Latinos are having plenty of babies, quite frankly. And so the population of the schools is shrinking. This city is also losing some of its residents, people. But if you come up here to Harlem and you go to Bed-Stuy, Fort Greene. I tell you, down in Brooklyn on Fulton, Flatbush Extension and Livingston, all those streets around there, where the Barclays Center is, where they built all that. It is at the skyline. Mom and Neil would know what to do because we should be down there. That's where we used to live in that general area. So housing is not a problem. It keep that going to build more affordable housing. Everywhere you look, they're building luxury building. They just ain't building for black people. They just ain't building for poor people with your stupid self. And the likes of our shop. The other thing is that why you can't talk to these Negroes. I swear before God, I'll tell you the truth. I believe Jesus. I believe the Lord has sent me. But I don't think Jesus can talk to black people. They're so racist. You can't talk to black. Anytime, let me say, if you a black man and you can't see through Al Sharpton, you can't see he's just a hustler, a liar, a skinflint, and Obama too, by the way. By the way, Mr. Engineer, I put out a tweet the other day about those two black people are at the bottom of the world social register. There's nobody on planet Earth that is low as black people. And at some point, somebody's going to turn around. I don't know, this will happen. This probably will not happen. Somebody's going to turn around and say, wait a minute, hold the phone. Let the Latinos, let the Mexicans, let the Nicaraguan, Guatemala, El Salvador, let them all come in. Let them come, and let's just get rid of the black people. We'll have a straight work. The Latinos, the El Salvador, Guatemala, they're a great workforce. Hell, they'll work. Go back to Che Guevara. The farmers out there in California, y'all know about Che. Yeah, what we need to do is don't get rid of the Latinos. That's the wrong. Hey, Trump. Trump, what the hell? Trump, listen, send ICE to get rid of send black people back to Africa, and America will be okay because the Latinos will pay their own. They'll pay their own way. The Latinos will work. They'll pay their taxes. Their children won't end up going, they'll speak 2 or 3 different languages. And their father going to stay at home with his children. The Latino, you're going in the wrong direction, Trump. Stop trying to get rid of the Latino. Get rid of all them black people. Spend the house shopping and send him first. And Obama, he ain't black, but send him in there because he said he's black. He's half white. But send Obama, send him to Nigeria, send him somewhere. Get rid of him. Get rid of them. You get rid of all these black people, you lower the taxes. You talk about lower crime, you're doggone right. There'll be housing for everybody. There'll be jobs for everybody. And the work will get done. These Latinos, they will work. Black man, listen, I'm telling you, since the 1960s, and that march of Montgomery bus boycott, and that march on Washington, and what didn't that march on Washington, the Million Man March, doggone it, I tell you that dude. You're going, hey, Trump, you're going in the wrong direction. Don't get rid of the Latino. Get rid of all these black people. Doggone it.